Hello students, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is R. Munirarna. I am the senior lecturer in the Department of Physics, Sahyadri College, Scalars. And today is my first session with you people. So in today's session, I'll start with a new lesson known as motion in plane. See, this lesson is the most important lesson in the first part of the physics and will contribute to around 9 marks in the final examination. So, while watching the video, try to watch the video repeatedly, and whatever the doubts will come across, please submit me through WhatsApp. Probably I will give you my contact number. So, here before starting the lesson, you're supposed to know certain basics. In that, you know what do you mean by rest and what do you mean by motion. If a body changes its position with respect to surroundings, it's called motion. If the body is not able to change its position with respect to surroundings, it's called rest. Now our topic is related to motion. So motion is nothing but a body is changing its position with respect to surroundings and with respect to time. Then during that motion, the body can execute different kinds of motions. For example, if motion of a body is going along a straight line, it can be called as motion in a straight line or motion in one dimension. If the same body is moving in a surface, assume on plane surface, then the motion is said to be in a plane. Because when a body is going in a straight line, its velocity or parameters related to its motion can be easily calculated with respect to one axis, either x-axis or y-axis or z-axis. If the same body is moving in a plane, then the parameters linked with the motion. What are parameters? Example, how much distance it covers, how much velocity does it has, and what is its acceleration. Like these parameters can be calculated with the help of two coordinate system. That coordinate system can be called as a plane. If the same body is moving in space, assume space, since in a room, in an empty area, in an empty space, then it related to three dimensions, x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. Since our lesson is related to plane, whatever the parameters we will discuss with respect to at least two coordinate systems. So in order to understand the motion of a body in a given plane, you require certain tools. Because when a body is going in a straight line, it is easy to explain. When the same body is moving in a plane, then you require two-dimensional coordinate system. Hope you understood. Example, you take about carom board. When a coin is moving in a carom board, its motion will vary with respect to x-axis as well as y-axis. Then at every second the coin position will vary with respect to x-axis and y-axis, provided if you know that two values you are able to find its exact position. If you feel difficult with this example, let us go with plotting a graph. While plotting a graph in a graph sheet, in order to locate a point, at least you require two values. One value with respect to x-axis, the other value with respect to y-axis. Same like when a body is moving in a plane, in order to explain its characteristics related to its motion, you require a two-dimensional coordinate system. To use that two-dimensional coordinate system and to explain its characteristics, certain tools are required. That tools are called as vectors. Called as vectors. Here vectors and other vectors will come across scalars also. So our lesson initially includes what are vectors and scalars, how many types are there, and how they can be added, subtracted and multiplied, using what mechanisms you can multiply, or you can say add, or you can say subtract, and how these things can be implemented in study of motion of a body when it is moving through a plane. So this is our complete lesson includes. So beginning, we will go with study of scalars and vectors. Hope you understood what is the use of scalars and vectors. These are the tools With this, you are able to study motion of a body when it is going in a plane. Of course, it is applicable to space also. Hope you understood. So let us discuss with scalars and vectors. So first of all, to study about the scalars and vectors, you are supposed to know a definition known as the physical quantity. In units and dimensions lesson, of the concerned lecture might have discussed what do you mean by physical quantity. A physical quantity is a quantity which can be measured. What's the meaning of measured? Any quantity means anything in the space. If you are able to measure it, then the particular thing can be called as physical quantity. Let us take an example. This marker. Height of this marker can be measurable or not? Answer is yes. Hence, the length of this marker is a physical quantity. Similarly, how much volume does it occupy? We are able to measure it. Hence, volume of this marker also is a physical quantity. Similarly, how much mass does it has? Also is a physical quantity. What color it has cannot be measurable. Hence, color is not a physical quantity. So, likewise, in daily life, where and all you are able to find, or where and all you are able to calculate certain things, or you are able to measure certain things, those certain things can be called as physical quantities. So, that physical quantities are essential in order to discuss scalars and vectors. So, first of all, what are scalars? Scalars are those physical quantities which has only magnitude. So, scalars are the physical quantities have only magnitude. Whereas vectors are those physical quantities they has magnitude and direction as well as. So, if physical quantities having only magnitude if you find, and there is no necessity of direction, or you can say direction is not at all required, means only magnitude is required to describe them. Those are called as scalars. And certain physical quantities, those are having magnitude as well as direction both. Those are called as vectors. For example, let us take an example of mass, or you can take as volume. So I have given 2 examples, and some more examples are available in your study material. Please go through that so that you will come to know which are scalars and which are vectors, and try to do some activity so you can find some other scalars and vectors in daily life. Okay, so here I mentioned 2 physical quantities, one is mass and volume. So let us take an example of mass. So while measuring mass of an object, as in 1 kg sugar. So assume you are going for a grocery store and you are asking for sugar. The person will weigh the mass as 1 kg, and while giving it to you, he will say like, take out 1 kg sugar. But while giving that sugar, is there any necessity like to mention the direction there? No, because assume the dialogue is like this: take the sugar in downward. Whether it looks to be meaningful? No. The reason mass is a scalar quantity. To describe its magnitude, means to describe its nature, only magnitude is sufficient. There is no any direction required. Hence, scalars are those physical quantities which have only magnitude. Let us take about one more example with the volume. So while taking milk, if you ask a concerned person to give only just like this example can be given, like 1 liter milk, 2 liters milk, but you will never ask like, I require 1 liter milk in eastward direction, I require 2 liter milk in north direction. Is it necessary to say like that? No. Hence, volume also is a scalar. Whereas coming to vectors, it definitely requires a magnitude and direction. Let us take an example of weather forecast. There, when you tell about the airflow, you can find out those things in mobile also, smartphones. When you open an app called weather forecasting, there they'll mention the wind speed with particular kilometer per hour in particular direction. For example, air is flowing about 12 km per hour towards east. If you don't know the direction, it is difficult to predict the weather conditions. Hope you understood the example. Think, if somebody asks you, like assume you are going in a bus, you are heading towards Bangalore. What is your velocity? Then you have to indicate two things. You are in a bus, so bus speed will be same as yours. So you say 70 km per hour and I am heading towards Bangalore. Then 70 km per hour will indicate its magnitude. And which direction you are moving there? Towards Bangalore. That gives the direction. Hence, to explain the velocity, both magnitude and direction is required. Similarly, in the case of wind speed. So, when you come across the examples of vectors, you will come across as velocity. Whereas in case of scalars, you can write that as a speed. Speed has only magnitude, whereas velocity has magnitude as well as direction. And you can take one more thing as acceleration. Acceleration also is a vector quantity. Acceleration due to gravity also is a vector quantity because it has a value 9.8 meter per second square and it acts downward direction. So this is about the basic introduction to the scalars and vectors. Now, while representing a scalar, see notations will be used in different ways. So generally alphabets will be used. For example, A is a vector. If the same A is mentioned with an arrow mark, then it can be called as, A is a scalar here. And if the same A is mentioned with an arrow mark, then this can be called as a vector. Hope you understood. A is a scalar. Then this is pronounced as A bar. Then this can be called as vector. So this is scalar and this is a vector. So these are the basic notations used in representing of a scalar and vector. Now, I said already, a scalar has only magnitude, whereas a vector has both magnitude as well as direction. Now, this A bar, assume A bar is here, is a vector, and this, for the convenience purpose, you can write it in a different way as magnitude into direction. See here, I mentioned as A bar as A dot A cap. See here, we are writing the symbol to be written in this way. So this is called A cap, pronounced as A cap. Now, what does it mean? This first part represents its magnitude, and the second part represents its direction. Now, this part gives magnitude, and this part gives direction. This kind of mechanism is not required when you come across with the scalars because Mahesh. Similarly, you can write B bar as B dot B cap. There are some other vectors also there to represent only the direction. Three vectors generally used in motion in plane. One is I cap, next is J cap, next is K cap. These three are called as unit vectors. Why they are called unit vectors? That I'll let you know in the next sessions. So time being, what is scalar and what is vector? Hope you understood. So as a summary, I repeat the definition. Scalars are those physical, example, mass, volume, speed, are those physical quantities which are having both magnitude as well as direction. Examples you can take it as velocity, acceleration and all. And notations, you can use any alphabet to represent scalar, and to represent a vector, an arrow mark to be introduced at the top of the alphabet in order to represent a vector. So pronounced as A bar. So A bar can also be written as A dot A cap. If you write in the place of A, anything you can write as an alphabet, but while mentioning the arrow mark is must. So without arrow mark that indicates a scalar, with arrow mark that indicates a vector. Now, other than this, diagrammatically how you can represent a vector? See, in some example I given the material. Assume a ball starts from A and reaches B. assume the distance between them is 50 meter. So position A to position B, distance is 50 meter. So the ball covered 50 meter distance. So here I mentioned at the beginning, the ball started from A and ended at B. Means his journey is from A to B, hence the arrow mark is given towards B. Now how much distance he covered is 50 meter. Now A is called tail and B is called head. Now the length of the vector is measured from tail to head. How much distance is there? 50 meter. So you can write as AB bar. Now AB bar is a vector. Since it has magnitude as well as direction, that is equal to 15 meter. So if you write this in other ways, as if you have used some 5 centimeter line, then you are taking scaling as 1 centimeter is equal to 10 meter. Even like that also you can mention derivations. So now AB bar is a vector. How much length it is? 50 meter. Now A is called tail of the vector, B is called head of the vector. So this is how diagrammatically we can represent a vector. Now in this AB is called as what? Magnitude. And this arrow mark represents what? Direction. Now assume the ball is going along x-axis here. Since the example I taken, the ball is heading from A towards B. Now this can be taken as AB bar as AB dot I cap, like that again, because I cap is a unit vector which is used to represent if the motion or anything is along x-axis. Similarly, J cap is used along y-axis, K cap is used for z-axis. Now here AB represents magnitude and I cap represents the direction. Now this AB is a magnitude, right? How to write magnitude in other forms? So you can write like this. AB bar is a vector by drawing two vertical parallel lines either of the side. This is called modulus. How to define it? Modulus. So modulus of A bar. How to pronounce this? Modulus of AB bar. So this can be taken as, see here I have written modulus. I repeat once again. Modulus of AB bar can be taken as AB. So what does it mean? By drawing the modulus for a given vector, what will get is magnitude of the vector. So here AB is called magnitude. So hope you understood. Now along which axis it is moving? That is represented by a unit vector, or you can say this vector which is used to represent the direction. So here modulus of AB bar, which is equal to AB, is called magnitude, and this direction is separately indicated with one vector with a cap symbol that gives the direction. Like this you can represent the vector. So the basic introduction of the scalars and vectors hope you understood. How to represent a vector and how to give the notations and all. See, if you want to get the direction, an additional point I'll give you. Think I'll write once again here as A bar is equal to A dot A cap. You got here or not? Now here A is what? Magnitude. A cap is what? Direction. To get only the direction, you can write like this. A cap is equal to A bar by A. Since A is what? Magnitude. Magnitude, how you can write is modulus. So A bar can be taken divided by this can be taken as modulus of A bar. Again the same meaning. You may get confused. Here I taken two letters, here one letter. No difference. Here AB itself is indicating a vector. Here A itself indicates one vector. So in order to simplify this, I can take AB as A bar. Again there is no change in the meaning. Hope you understood. Now, if you understood about the basics of scalars and vectors, now let us get into the concept of the types of vectors. So in this session I will discuss only 3 types. In the upcoming session I will discuss about another 4 with the further continuing concepts, since the length of the video becomes more. So hope you understood about the scalars and vectors. Now let us get into the types of vectors first. So hope you understood with this. Please refer to the study material. Now coming to the types of vectors. So in this session I discussed with majorly three vectors. One is a null vector, the very first one. Null vector. See, the meaning itself indicates null. Null refers to 0. So a vector whose magnitude is equal to 0. Such vectors are called null vectors. For example, if a bar is equal to 0, then what does it mean? Modulus of a bar is equal to a, that is equal to 0. Now what is a? Magnitude. Since its magnitude is 0, the vector is called as null vector. Now we may get it out whether it is required to special required to mention its direction or not. No need, because it doesn't have any direction. Magnitude itself is not there. Then there is no necessity to mention its direction. So it's important for one now. What is a null vector? A vector whose magnitude is equal to 0 is known as a null vector. Next, I'll come across with the second one, is known as unit vector. See, unit vector, a vector whose magnitude is equal to 1. A vector whose magnitude is equal to 1. Such vector is known as a unit vector. Now, unit vector, for example, taken like a bar is equal to 1, assume. And here we are going to make sure, let's say, I cap. Now what does it mean? I cap represents it's a rectangle on the x-axis. Now here I write this as modulus of a bar is equal to a is equal to 1. Now what does it mean? Magnitude of the vector is equal to 1. So then a bar is called as unit vectors. Such unit vectors are used in giving the direction. So what is the application of unit vectors? Unit vectors are majorly used in giving the direction for a given vector. Why? The question mark if you put why. So make sure for a given vector two things are essential. One is magnitude, the other is what? Direction. If a vector is given with some direction, assume. Condition is what? Its magnitude should not alter. So to be precise, I will tell you in such a way. Think you have some amount x, or let's say 1000 rupees. I'll give you a question. You multiply with such a number, so that multiplication should happen, provided the value should not alter. Then the answer is what? 1. If you multiply 1000 rupees with 1, the answer is also 1000, and the two tasks is completed. 1. Multiplication is happened. Second, the magnitude is not altered. Same condition should be applied in case of vectors. When you are giving direction to a given vector along with its magnitude, the magnitude of the vector should not alter. Then only choice is what? To multiply the magnitude of the vector with what? A unit vector. So, if you multiply with the unit vector, since the magnitude of the unit vector is 1, the actual magnitude of the different vector will not change, and provided it will get some direction. Hope you understood. Now here I will write something. Assume a car is moving with 50 meters per second along x-axis. So assume. So 50 meters per second x-axis. So x-axis is nothing but I cap. So I'll write this way. 50 I cap meter per second. Now this indicates what? The magnitude of the car velocity is 50 meters per second, and it is moving along which axis? X-axis. If I write this way, a car is moving with 25 j cap meter per second. Now what does it mean? Car velocity is 25 meters per second, and it is moving along y-axis. So by introducing this direction, the actual magnitude should not get disturbed. That is the purpose of the unit vectors. Hope you understood. Next. Negative vector. See, negative vector is a vector same as the original vector, but direction is opposite. For example, a bar is a vector, then minus a bar is called negative vector. Sometimes I can draw a diagram, just check it out. As a bar is acting in this direction, neither x nor y, it is acting something as well. B bar is another vector acting in opposite direction, but length of the vector is same, both are same. But direction of B bar is opposite to A bar. Now I can write like this: A bar is equal to minus of B bar. What does it mean? B bar is called negative vector of A bar, since its magnitude is same but direction is opposite. But when you are representing only one vector as a negative vector, you can write like this: A bar can be written as minus A bar. Now direction of A bar is opposite to minus A bar. So if that about 180 degrees shift will be there. If it is acting along positive x-axis, let's say, negative vector will be along negative x-axis. So hope you understood about the null vector, unit vector and negative vector. About the best classification of vectors I will discuss in the next session. So here, based on this, what are the CET questions you can come across? A brief questions I will give you, just one or two. They will give you some list of physical quantities and you are supposed to identify which are scalars and which are vectors. That's it. A small example I will give you. See, mass, volume, speed and displacement. So after giving 4 options, they will give a question like this: among which is not a scalar quantity. The question will be like this: among which is a vector quantity? Anyway, so you know, mass, volume, speed, all are scalars. Option D is the correct answer. It's not a scalar quantity. Nothing but it's a vector quantity. Like they will give set of questions like mass, volume, speed is one set, displacement, velocity, acceleration another set, like some other, like three combinations will be either which combination contains all our vectors or which combination contains all our scalars, like the questions will appear. That particular questions and what are example questions I will upload along with the video. You please try to recap it, and if any doubts is there, please update me through WhatsApp, and my WhatsApp number is provided here, 91644-89369, and try to put into my individual WhatsApp along with your name and whether you belong to some girl section or boy section. And you please update the doubt so that I can answer the persons individually, so that it would not disturb other persons in the group. So hope you understood the very first lesson, and if any doubts is there, please update me, and if you are not understood, try to answer it repeatedly and don't get panic. It takes certain time to adjust with the teaching mechanisms. Thank you for the session.